The observation deck of the Velkara flagship hung suspended in the void, its transparent hull offering an unobstructed view of the dying star system below. Melissa Chen stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the emergency evacuation unfold with the practiced calm of someone who had seen too many impossible situations. "They have 6 hours," the Velkara commander hissed through his translator, his crystalline exoskeleton refracting the red light of the collapsing sun. 6 hours before the stellar collapse reaches critical mass. My people cannot evacuate 3 billion souls in 6 hours. William Foster, standing beside Melissa, pulled up the holographic display with a flick of his wrist. Numbers cascaded across the air. Population density, transport capacity, gravitational interference. All of it painted the same picture. Catastrophe. "You asked for humanity's help," William said quietly. "You're going to get it." The Velkara commander's limbs trembled, a gesture Melissa had learned meant skepticism bordering on despair. "Humanity has 12 ships in this sector. 12. We have 2,000, and it is not enough." Melissa smiled, and there was something in that expression that made the alien pause. "Commander, do you remember the siege of Proxima?" "Ancient history," the commander replied. 300 years ago, when humanity was barely crawling out of its home system. 317 years, William corrected, his fingers dancing across the display. "Your ancestors arrived at Proxima Centauri and found our colony station under siege by the Kreth Collective. 200,000 humans trapped, their shields failing, supplies exhausted. Do you know what the Velkara did?" The commander's translator remained silent, but his posture shifted subtly. "Your great fleet diverted from its trade route," Melissa continued, her voice soft, but carrying an edge like sharpened steel. 78 Velkara vessels held the line for 16 hours while humanity scrambled to mount a defense. 4,000 of your people died buying time for ours. "We did what honor demanded," the commander said. "Yes," Melissa agreed. "And so will we," she tapped her communicator. "Authorization Chen Omega 7. Execute protocol remembrance." Across the system, something unprecedented began to unfold. The 12 human vessels that had been patrolling the sector suddenly blazed with energy, their quantum cores burning white-hot. But they weren't moving to evacuate. Instead, they began to broadcast a signal that rippled across human space like a stone thrown into still water. William watched the commander's display screens with satisfaction as the aliens' sensors began registering the impossible. What is this?" the commander breathed. From every direction, from distances that should have taken weeks to traverse, humanity came. They came through jump points and wormholes that shouldn't exist. They came through experimental fold-space corridors that bent the laws of physics into uncomfortable new shapes. They came in every vessel that could fly, military dreadnoughts and colony transports, mining barges and luxury liners, research vessels and century-old freighters pulled from museum displays. The human armada materialized around the dying star system in a matter of hours, a feat that every other species in the galaxy would have declared impossible. 3,000 ships, 5,000, 10,000. The numbers kept climbing. "We don't forget," Melissa said simply. "Not our enemies and certainly not our friends." The Velkara commander's translator stuttered as he tried to process what he was seeing. This is your entire fleet. You've left your borders undefended. The Kreth, the Saurian Empire, any of your enemies could strike now." "Let them try," William said with a grim smile. "They'll learn the same lesson you're learning now. When humanity makes a promise, when we owe a debt, nothing in this galaxy will stop us from paying it back." The evacuation began in earnest. Human ships descended into the Velkara world's atmosphere, like a swarm of benevolent locusts. They landed in cities and towns and remote settlements clinging to mountainsides. They packed Velkara families into cargo holds designed for equipment, converted every available space into emergency shelters, and worked with a desperate efficiency that bordered on madness. In the command center, Melissa coordinated the chaos with the help of AI systems pushed far beyond their designed limits. Beside her, William managed the logistics of an operation that would have taken months to plan, executing it in real time with nothing but hope and human stubbornness. "Sector 12 is experiencing tidal effects from the stellar collapse," a tactical officer reported. "Gravity wells are making extraction difficult." "Send the Remembrance and her sister ships," Melissa ordered. "They have the gravitic dampers. Tell them to burn their cores if they have to, Captain Chen. That could destroy those vessels. Then they'll die saving 300,000 Velkara who saved our ancestors. Melissa replied without hesitation. No sacrifice too great. Not today. The Velkara commander watched humanity work with something approaching religious awe. They saw human pilots push their ships past safety limits, saw engineers disable failsafes to squeeze more capacity from transport bays, saw civilians volunteer their personal vessels for rescue runs that could very well be one-way trips. 4 hours into the evacuation, William pulled up the numbers. We're at 87% extraction. The outer colonies are clear. We're focusing on the primary urban centers now. The sun's collapse is accelerating. The commander interjected, his voice hollow. You cannot save everyone. Watch us, Melissa said. In the final hour, as the star's core began its terminal convulsion, humanity performed one last impossible act. The largest human vessels, the massive colony arcs that could house millions, descended into the Velkara homeworld's most populated regions. They extended emergency fields that shielded entire city blocks, lifting thousands at a time directly into space. The jump calculations alone should have taken days. Instead, human quantum computers networked across the entire fleet, sharing processing power in a distributed calculation that pushed the boundaries of known science. They opened jump points inside an active stellar collapse zone, threading escape routes through gravitational chaos that should have torn ships apart. When the star finally died, erupting in a cataclysm that would echo across the sector for centuries, the Velkara homeworld was empty. 3 billion souls had been evacuated in 6 hours. Not everyone survived. 47 human ships were lost, their crews refusing to jump until their final Velkara passengers were secured. But the price was paid gladly, without hesitation, without regret. In the aftermath, as the combined fleets regrouped around a neighboring system, the Velkara commander approached Melissa on the observation deck. The human captain looked exhausted, her uniform stained with soot and hydraulic fluid, but her eyes were clear. Why? The commander asked simply. Your people risked everything. Your entire civilization was vulnerable. Melissa looked out at the stars, at the ships that carried the saved and the saviors alike. 317 years ago, your people decided that 200,000 human strangers were worth saving. They didn't calculate the cost. They didn't debate it. They just acted. She turned to face the alien directly. Humanity learned something that day, Commander. We learned that in this vast, cold universe, there are people worth bleeding for, worth dying for, and we never forget our debts. William joined them, handing Melissa a data pad with casualty reports. She scanned them, her jaw tightening, but her resolve never wavered. The galaxy thinks humanity is dangerous because of our weapons, our aggression, our refusal to submit, William said. But that's not what should scare them. Melissa nodded, finishing his thought. What should scare them is that when humanity loves, when we make a promise, when we owe a debt, we become unstoppable. We'll move worlds. We'll break physics. We'll sacrifice everything. The Velkara commander stood in silence for a long moment, processing the magnitude of what he had witnessed. Finally, his translator crackled to life with words that would be remembered for generations. Today, we learned why humanity walks among the stars as equals to species millions of years older, not because you are the strongest or the smartest or the most numerous. He paused, his crystalline form seeming to shine with newfound understanding. But because when you make a friend, you gain a family, and when you make humanity your family, we become inevitable. Melissa finished softly. Behind them, 10,000 human ships prepared for the long journey home, carrying with them 3 billion grateful Velkara, and a reminder that would ripple across the galaxy. Mankind never forgets a favor, and their payback can indeed shake worlds.